Hello, everybody. How you doing today? This is Sakoni Prince, and I am super excited to invite you and to actually welcome you to the Heal podcast. Heal is an acronym for Help, Elevate, and Learn, and it's based on my book by the same name, and the subtitle is A Guide for Healing Your Inner Child. And I am so excited to be able to turn this book into a podcast because I believe that we need to spend time having a conversation about our mental health and some of the things that are still showing up today that may have been seeded in our childhood. I can't tell you the response I've gotten from this book and even from the podcast has been overwhelming. And I have been so flattered, but so also gracious in the fact that I've been allowed this opportunity to actually have these conversations about our mental health, our inner child trauma, inner child wounds, but even more importantly, our inner child healing. And I do want to actually say that we have a sponsor for this particular podcast, and that sponsor is none other than BetterHelp.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable. It is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal or choose Sakoni Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month.
Well, as you can tell, I'm super excited that we have a sponsor for our podcast. And I believe that it's necessary for us to be able to, again, have these conversations centered around our mental health. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't just come from a layman's standpoint. I mean, although I did write the book, and like I tell people all the time, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist. But I have dealt enough with this particular issue to be able to actually write a book and start this podcast. And again, like I've said before, I want to start the conversation. I'm not here to end it, but I want to start the conversation and make it commonplace for us to be able to talk about things that are affecting us today that may have been seeded or rooted in things in our childhood. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have on people that are experts in the industry, people that are therapists, people that can actually help frame up the information that I put in my book. And if you haven't done so already, you can actually go to my website, SakoniPrince.com/heal. You can watch all of the previous podcasts, and you'll actually be able to see this one on there in the next coming days. But listen, I want to bring up to the stage our guest for today, none other than Miss DrRhonda M. Wood. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. I can hear you fine.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast. And I really want to give you an opportunity to tell the people who you are and why should they tune in? Why should they take what you say to heart?
Oh, man. First of all, Sakoni, thank you so much for this invitation. This is such an honor to be able to be on your podcast. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be able to address your audience and your listeners and viewers. So my name, again, is DrRhonda M. Wood. I'm an international mental health speaker, best-selling author. I'm an advocate. I also sit on the board. I'm a board member for the National Alliance on Mental Illness here, right? NAMI. It stands for NAMI stands for National Alliance on Mental Illness, right here in my county, in Prince George's County. And so, Tony, you might be wondering, well, I know you didn't just wake up one day and decide you wanted to be a public speaker for mental health or write articles or books about mental health or advocate for mental health. So if you wouldn't mind, could I share a little bit about the backstory of how I got to this point?
Please do.
Well, Sakona, let me tell you. There I was in corporate America, right? I'm working at a Washington, D.C. law firm. High demand, high level clients. You needed high energy. It also required a lot of working hours, let me tell you. But let me tell you, sometimes those environments can be a bit dysfunctional and chaotic.
I can imagine.
Hours, the people, the personalities. I love working with attorneys. I really do. They are some of
Mhm.
the most brilliant minds in the world, but they also have their share of issues. And so, I was working long hours, coming in early, working through lunch, staying late, coming home and trying to give my family what was left. Not the best of me, but what was left of me. And I was like, well, this isn't going to work. And so I realized, man, I was starting to feel discontent because I felt really stressed out, burnt out,
Right.
overworked, underpaid, undervalued. And so here's the thing. There is this unspoken truth, like, man, even when you are feeling stressed out, you don't show it, you don't say it, right?
Hmm. Wow. Okay.
And so, but it got to the point where I was like, man, something's got to give. This is not cool. And let me tell you, as in most cases, hey, I was the only female or the only person of color at certain tables in that industry. The
Right.
last thing I wanted to do is say, hey, this is too much. I'm stressed out. I didn't want to look like I couldn't handle it.
Right.
I didn't want them to think, well, we tried to give the female a try, or we tried to give the person of color a try. Oh well, let's just go with somebody else. Nobody ever wants to appear weak or not in control or not in charge.
Right.
However, I had to put my pride aside. I had to take that superwoman cape off for a second and say, you know what, I'm going to prioritize me. Because I
Mm.
realize, and I'm sure a lot of your viewers have heard, that they will post my job description in a second if I got sick or couldn't make it to work or wind up on disability, or they will just scoop my little body aside, clear my desk off, and put somebody else in that spot.
Right. Right. You still there? I think we froze.
Uh-oh.
Hello. Okay. Okay. We good. We're back. We're back.
Okay, sorry about that. There is a storm brewing here, so I don't know if that's me. Sorry.
No, no, no. Well, we've had bad weather here too. So, but anyway, continue.
Yes, so I decided to prioritize me. I knew what the risk was. I was like, man, people are probably going to talk about me. I might look bad. I might look weak. They're going to probably, all of those things ran through my mind, but it still wasn't more important than me saying, I still need to put me first. I
Right.
went to my boss and I said, hey, I need to take some time. I mean, when I say long hours, I mean long hours. I felt like I was almost working throughout the night and trying to get back to work in the next morning. So I took some time away. I decided to go do some talk therapy because I was
Right.
stressed out to the point where I felt like it was physical and mental. Did some
Mm.
talk therapy, did my hard work. Man, we went back and started digging up stuff. I was like, man, doc, I just thought I was coming here to learn some stress, some de-stressing techniques. We going back. But it
Right.
was, at the fear of looking weak, I was able to make one of the strongest decisions that I ever made. People think healing and therapy are dirty words. There's such a stigma tied to it. And
Yeah.
through those experiences, Sakoni, that's what brought me to where I am today. By making those bold, courageous moves, by being transparent with my story. I just kept speaking more and more publicly
Right.
about it, and that brought me to where I am today. So I'm a international mental health speaker because I've gone to London, I've gone to England, France, and Belgium, sharing my so international speaking and writing, published articles, advocacy, speaking to corporations, at churches, different organizations, and things of that nature. Best decision I ever made.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can tell that you are passionate about what you do, and I thank you for sharing that part of your backstory because I think it's important for us to, I mean, to really understand who we're actually gleaning from, and I thank you for sharing that. So I really want to get into some of these questions real quick, and hopefully at the end we can chop it up a little more. But I wanted to ask you, in your professional opinion, how important is inner child healing?
Ooh, that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. I think it's critical. I
Okay.
think inner child healing is critical. And for the record, I'm speaking from experience. This is part of the work that I had to do, right?
Right.
Dig deep. And like I said, I thought I was just going to go de-stress. But of course, when you
Right.
sit in front of a professional, they want to make sure that they not just put a band-aid on your issues, but that they actually go back and dig things up from the root so you can actually heal from the thing. So healing, first of all, it comes from within, right?
Correct.
It's about how critical is it? Super important.
Right.
Super important. And I'll tell you why. Here's one of the things that I realized. When we don't address that inner child, right? It will inevitably resurface, right? And it
Yes.
shows up in various ways
Right.
throughout our adulthood. The
Correct.
various ways, in many times, come out at the most inconvenient times, and sometimes it comes out in inappropriate ways. But going back and healing that inner child, facing your past, feeling your emotions, sometimes comforting that inner child. Because again, that
Right.
inner child is resurfaced. So comforting that inner child, comforting those truths, those unspoken truths. Continuing, I will tell you this, continuing to suppress it, continuing to push it under the rug does a disservice to us and the people around us.
That is so true. And you know, as you were talking, I was reminded about chapter 6 in my book. It's entitled "The Danger of Unprocessed Emotions,"
Wow.
and
Powerful.
the subtitle is "The Slap Heard Round the World." And
Oh, yes.
I make reference to Will Smith and Chris Rock at the Oscars. And when we don't process those emotions and those feelings, I remember, in fact, watching this that one podcast by a friend of mine, in fact, Dr. Ladanya, and she talked about feeling what you feel, like feeling the feelings. And
Mm.
basically, that's processing it. So many times we get in situations where we want to ignore, we want to suppress, we want to push away. But if we don't process our feelings, they will come back.
Oh,
We just
absolutely.
we don't bury them, we plant them, and they will come back up. So we have to be able to actually process the emotions. That means feel everything that we need to feel, go through that process, get it all out, and then the healing can start. I use the example of being physically sick. When our body has ingested some type of poison, or like that food poisoning, or those who drink, if you've drunk too much, in fact, your body wants to get it out. And so it throws it up like before you can start healing. Now, can you imagine not allowing that to happen? You'll never really get the healing that you deserve. And so even for us from an emotional or mental standpoint, being able to have a safe place to where we can throw that stuff up, get it out, and then start the healing process. So I definitely I thought about that. In fact, when you mentioned just how important in fact that is.
Right, absolutely. I love the point that you made about feeling and not suppressing our emotions. Because how many of us have grown up in environments where we weren't given permission
Right.
to feel, to emote, and to cry?
Exactly.
Right? A lot of us we don't let anybody see you cry. Man up or woman up or be
Right.
tough or be strong. And we thought
Right.
that was the thing to do for so long, right?
Right.
Not
Right.
realizing it. And also in addition to that, we learn to cope and not heal and not
Right.
feel.
Right.
And so pain Pain must be heard. It has to have a voice. It has
Mm,
to be acknowledged. It has to be recognized, and it can't be
right,
just hidden all the time.
right. And one of the things that I want to add that in, I'm gonna get to the next question is, it first has to be recognized and acknowledged by us,
Right.
because if we never acknowledge it, if we never recognize it, again, the poison is in us, and
Right.
we need to get it out. We need to really, oh my goodness.
It's so good.
A couple of years ago, I had a chance to speak at a Focus Women's Conference, and at the end of that presentation, I did an exercise where I had them to first of all secure their valuables because I know everybody ain't saved. But then
Right.
I had them to take their hand and put it over their heart and close their eyes. And I had
Mm,
them to talk to the little girl that was in there. I had
wow.
them to tell her how proud they were of her and of the strength that she had in order to survive everything they went through. But I also had them to understand that that little girl is proud of you. She's proud of the woman that you become. If she could see you now, she would be so happy as to who you are. And that exercise, it allowed a lot of the women, because I can tell you how many came up to me afterwards and thanked me, not just for their information, but especially for that, because they hadn't even like dawned on them that that little girl was still inside of them.
Right.
And
Right.
I think that's one of the catalysts that really started this whole process, was realizing that we still can have a happy childhood. We can, but we can't do that if we don't listen to and do it. An actual, in my book, shameless plug, I talk about an inner child
I love
checkup.
it.
You know, checking on that inner child and seeing how they are, because some of us, we've actually pacified it. And you talked about coping. Some of us, we've actually taken it and pushed it in the corner and silenced it. Some of us, we take it and locked it in a dungeon. But like you said, and like I know, eventually it's going to come back. It's going to show up in some way, and most of the times it's not a healthy way. If
Mm,
we haven't heard it, if we haven't given voice to it, if we haven't given vent to it, if we hadn't made peace with it, it's going to
right.
show up and show out in our situations, on our jobs, with our companies, with our diets, with our goals, our projects, whatever it is we're trying to do. And so my thing is, I really want people to actually take a step back and see, is there any behavior that I'm having today that, and like the speaker a couple of weeks ago, she said, if it's hysterical, it's historical.
I've
Because
heard that before.
if you go over the top about something, that means it's it wasn't just a current issue. It wasn't
Right.
just that person. This was something else that just manifested in that moment. So I really want to again help people to step back and take a look at themselves and see if there's anything they're doing today that has its roots in an inner child wound or trauma.
Well, Sakoni, could I take a couple of minutes and tell you sort of my aha moment?
Okay, all right, go ahead.
So I'm sitting in the therapist's office, right? I
Okay,
had actually not only gone for me, but I brought along my teenage daughter, who
okay.
I felt was having some serious issues. So
Uh-huh.
I felt like I dragged her to therapy, Sakoni. We're
Right.
sitting on this brown leather couch in the talk therapist office. I'm sitting across from him. He said, "What brings you here?" I spent the next 10, 15 minutes telling him all the issues about her. I'm like, she's disrespectful. She is out of control. I'm at my wits' end. I don't know what to do. So, look, I'm telling him how to do his job. So, what I need you to do is get on her. Do what you have to do to get her straight. Rip her a new one if you need to. Sakoni, he never looked over in her direction. He never asked her a question. He never addressed her. You know what he told me?
What he told you.
First of all, the whole time I'm talking, he's just looking at me, nodding his head. Then when I finished, he gave me the, "Well, are you finished?" look. And then he said, "Miss Wood, I can't help her. until I help you.
Mm.
It
Ooh.
took me a minute, first of all, to digest that.
Right, right.
It took me a minute to digest that. But here's what I realized in that situation. Here's what I realize now. Sometimes when you want to know what's wrong with the fruit, you got to look at the truth, right?
That's it.
If you want
That's
to
it.
know a lot of times you look at the kids and they out of control and you're like, well, where the parents at?
Yep. Yep.
So we, first of all, we both did the talk therapy thing, which was amazing, by the way. Very good
Good.
experience. I can speak to that now. But I realized that her breakthrough was going to come from me. I needed to model what it looked like to go
Yes.
through this healing journey and this healing process. I needed to model that for her. She needed to see it. Not only that, she needed to not see me as this strong. Not that there was anything wrong with being an independent woman. Not that there was anything being not that there was anything wrong with being strong, but not all the time. She
Right.
needed to
That.
know there are times when it's okay to cry. There are
Yep.
times when it's okay to be vulnerable. There are
Yep.
times when it's okay to say, I'm not okay today.
That's.
There were times when it was okay to say, I need to take some time for me.
Yep.
Not today.
Yeah.
I needed to
Yep.
model those behaviors and let her know that's how it's done. Not to
Yeah.
be stoic and not just to cope all the time. But she
Right.
needed to visualize and witness my healing journey first. That was
Right.
what was going to bring about her breakthrough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that is one of the things that's really so near and dear to my heart because I believe that I do personal development, leadership development, and now I've been talking about inner child healing. But all of those have their root in us, you
Yes.
know, because even my like leadership development is coming from a modeling leadership, not just do what I say, just that, but it's what are you modeling, what are you showing. So I approach everything from a personal development standpoint, and
I
so
love it.
I know that was an amazing breakthrough, in fact, not only for you but even for your daughter,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know, and even just helping her to understand that again, it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to admit that you need help. And I tell my kids all the time, there's nothing wrong with needing help, but there's
Right.
everything wrong with needing it and not being willing to ask for
Right.
it. And so we have to make sure that we model for our children because if we don't, they will do like us. They will run themselves into the ground. They will keep going until they are pretty much on the sick bed. You know,
Right.
they would never take time for themselves. They would never make their own mental health a priority. And we wonder why stuff is perpetuated. We need to model for them, okay, I need to take some time off. I need to take a break. I need to do something to, to actually minister to myself so that I can then come back and minister to you. So that
Right.
is that's amazing. And I applaud you for being
Thank-
willing and vulnerable enough to actually take her with you.
Yeah.
Because so many people they I don't even want to see my I don't want my child to see me in this position, you know,
Right.
because I have to be the one to have all the answers. Well, in fact, the reality is we don't have all the answers. But if
Right.
we take that position, they think, well, they're supposed to have all the answers, and we're not. So I do
Right.
applaud you for being vulnerable enough and transparent enough with your child to take her with you. And I can almost imagine, and I don't know if you talked to her about this, but like what was going through her mind when the therapist said, I gotta fix you. I want to see
Yeah.
you like this.
Look.
She was,
Yes, exactly. I think she wanted to give him a high five.
yeah,
At
I'm sure she was
look,
like,
yeah,
she was
at
like,
one point I had to step out the room so that they could talk about me. I said, man, this is not how it was supposed to go down. But
oh
you know
man,
what? I'm glad I did. We joke about it now. Let me tell you, our relationship now is like 10x times better. It's so much better. She's in such a better place with her mental health, me with my mental health. Our relationship is improved drastically. We're closer than ever before. I get to break generational curses of passing down, you know, unhealthy behaviors, we get to stop that, and we get to
Right.
now pass on appropriate behaviors, because we've started our healing process. We started
That
our
is so
healing journey, and it's been quite a journey so far, I tell you.
well. And see, that's my thing too. Is like don't just take the journey by yourself.
Right.
Encourage other people to take it with you. And you do that by modeling it. Now, imagine had you went and just dropped her off there, and like, okay, you're the one that needs that, to have the actual work done. I don't know if she would have been as receptive
Right.
if you hadn't gone as well. So again, I applaud you. And actually, in fact, that kind of brings us to our next question. In your professional opinion, when should someone start inner child work?
Ooh. Well, let me say this: it's never too late.
Oh, that's a good part. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's never too late. I never wanted this for myself, or even for my daughter, to feel like it was something that was useless or a waste of time, or oh, I don't have time, don't have time for it, or that they felt like what was going on was too far gone. So I feel like
Right.
it's never too late. And I feel like, hey, you know what? The sooner the better. The sooner the better. If a doctor came to you and say, you know what, you're sick and you need surgery, and you're like, oh, no problem, doc. Give me a few years. Well, let's do it. Let's wait till the end of the year. You're gonna be like, wait a minute now. If something ain't right,
Right.
how soon can we fix this?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And since you don't know how much time we have, start today. Start now. Start.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So
And,
my
and
next
the
question.
benefits are amazing. The
Oh
benefits
yes.
that come from
Yes.
that. Yeah, let's speak on that.
Okay. Well, and to me, it's the freedom that comes from regaining that childlike enthusiasm and adventure. Several years ago, I was led to actually start my own online magazine. And when
Oh,
I was
brilliant.
doing it, I was like, you know what? There's so many magazines. I thought, what am I going to, like, how am I going to stand out? And it's like God told me, said, yeah, but this not your magazine. And in the process of me putting that together, I can honestly say I never felt more like a child in my adulthood than when I was putting that together, because I was creating something. I was making something that never existed, but something I had complete autonomy over. And so the benefits of of that level of inner child healing is that you can actually be adventurous enough to actually do things that other people may have been kind of drawn back from. Like, I don't know what people are going to say. I don't know what they're going to think. I don't know how well it's going to be received. I was so excited to be putting it together. It's like it reminds me of when I was in summer camps. Of course, this was like in the '80s, but they would have you make these little clay
Oh,
ashtrays.
oh
You take them and you mold them, and then they would have you paint them and stuff. And it doesn't matter what it looked like. You made it, you
yeah.
painted, and you were proud of it. You were happy to show it. Mom, look what I made. Dad, look what I made. And
Right.
so for me, the benefits of inner child healing is regaining that level of adventure when it comes to even being willing to try new things. Kids are fearless.
Yes.
They are willing to go up and talk to somebody, willing to speak to somebody. It's only when they've been traumatized that I, I don't know what to say. I don't know how they're going to, in fact, receive me. So you tell me, what are some of the benefits that you've experienced with your level of healing?
Yeah. So let me share this. Um, I think I want to speak to your audience for a minute there, because
Okay.
I not only do I want your viewers and listeners to know that it's never too late, but I also want them to recognize it might feel a little weird and uncomfortable thinking about your inner child. or even the words healing your inner child. Again,
Right.
there are some words that might or thoughts that might seem taboo. Like, wait a minute, I'm a whole grown woman. What are you
Yeah.
talking? I'm an adult, and now I have a child. And in some cases, your child has a child. So,
Right.
but there are some things. So first of all of us have an inner child. Let's put that out there.
Yes.
All of
Yes.
us have one. Not everyone had a happy-go-lucky childhood.
That
There are
part.
there are things from our childhood, consciously or unconsciously. Again, as I mentioned before, that will show up, that will follow us throughout adulthood. Right? It just followed us. It just stayed with us. You wonder sometimes, well, why does that person react that way, or why do I have this part of this thing about me? Some people say, well, that's just the way I am.
Yep.
That's
That,
just how
that,
that's just how I do. I go from 0 to 100, and things of that nature. And like you said, the things that are hysterical have a history behind them. So
right.
so the benefits of healing your inner child is this emotional freedom and inner peace that is
Mm,
inexplainable. The emotional freedom might even feel like big baggages, big boulders, or a lot of heavy baggage that's just been lifted. For me, my personal experience is that I felt like there were things from my childhood, neglect and rejection, me always trying to, get my parents' approval for things, and doing so much. So my way of coping. So, different people may have different ways of coping, Sakona. They might do, turn to drugs or alcohol or toxic relationships and things of that nature. My quote unquote drug of choice was performance, because I kept
okay.
trying to get approval. So let me get some more degrees. Even from childhood, let me get straight A's. Let me get
Mm,
more degrees. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me shine my shoes. Let me go back and clean my room again. All these things trying to get approval. And what I had to do, when you deal with that rejection, and you deal with those abandonment issues, and you have daddy issues and things of that nature, that those emotions, the thing that you wanted in childhood, you look for in adulthood.
that's
So
it.
for me, I wanted I wanted attention. That was number one. I wanted attention, but I also wanted to feel safe. I wanted safety. I wanted to be able to be myself, and not always feel like I had to put on a mask and pretend like everything was okay all the time.
Right. Right.
So when I began to go back and do my healing work, I was able to release a lot of things in order to be able to experience that emotional freedom and the inner peace. Those were the two main things for me that I valued more than anything else.
Yeah.
Releasing myself from the bondage of feeling like I had to always put up this front, releasing myself from the bondage of feeling like I couldn't um, emote and cry and show emotions and be authentic. That's another thing. Uh, uh, the authenticity that I was able to just be me, releasing myself from the bondage of what other people thought of me, all of those things. Um,
Right.
um, and that inner child, when things happen when you're a child, it stunts you emotionally.
Yeah. It
So for
does.
example, if at 8 years old or 10 years old, something traumatic happened, or there was something that you were craving, even as an adult, emotionally, you're still that 8 or 10-year-old person. And you
Right.
wonder, man, why are they acting like that? Why are they throwing a temper tantrum like they're a
Yeah.
little kid?
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
something happened in there, and emotionally they were stunted. And so they're still that age. And
Right.
until
Right.
that's dealt with, they're going to continue to behave and act in inappropriate ways. That's the way it shows up in adulthood.
Yeah. So once that has been identified, and it really brings me to my next question is: do you believe that people can do inner child therapy alone, or do you think it's best that they have somebody come alongside and help them, a trusted friend or a professional? And believe me, I'm an advocate of all of them
Yeah.
because I think even after you leave your therapist, even after you finish talking to your friend, none of
Mhm.
that helps if you don't start, if you don't work, if you don't put in the work. I could go to a gym, I could get a trainer, but
Yeah.
if as soon as I leave the gym, as soon as I leave the trainer, I head straight to the donut shop or straight to get some ice cream, you know, file
I,
that away.
I've done it. I've
So
certainly done it. But I agree with you, Sakoni. I totally agree with you. I think it's a combination. I do think some of it you have to make sure you are, one of the things that I would tell my daughters, we can't it's so funny. I would go to my therapist's office maybe every 2 weeks. At one point it was like every 2 weeks. And I felt
yeah,
like every time I walked in there, I bought 2 weeks worth of issues. And I'd be like, well, how much time we got? But I realized I can't wait 2 weeks to be able to, I couldn't wait just until I was able to meet with him. So
right.
some things I had to do on my own, whether it was journaling, whether it was talking to a trusted friend or family member. There were some things, so that he didn't feel like, man, every time she come in here, she about to dump 2 weeks of
Do, do,
issues on
do,
me.
do.
Right. But I do.
Right.
I think it's a combination. I do think it's important to have people in your life that can help you kind of, work through some things, or to be able to address the things that you may not be able to see. But I think the most important thing is you have to be willing. There has
Of
to be a
course.
willingness for you to be
Yeah,
able
of
to
course.
step into that journey, to be able to walk that journey. There are going to be times, there's some things you might be able to do on your own, and there are
Right.
some things that you might need your partner to
Right.
someone, a trusted person, to do with you. Yeah.
Right. I know you mentioned about journaling, and in my book, I kind of touch on that. And I know that's easier for women to do than, let's say, men.
I
But
agree.
even in my book, I encourage to write it, read it, and release it.
Wow.
Write it down,
Mm-hmm.
read it out loud, and
Mm.
then burn it. Most
Yes.
guys have a fire pit, they got a barbecue grill. If you don't want
Something.
anybody to read, say, well, it's okay. Just write it down, go somewhere, read it out loud, and then just burn it. You know,
Wow.
but it allows you an opportunity again to get it out because with the still being in you, it's hard for healing to take place when you're still holding on. We have to release. We have to let it go. We have
Yeah.
to make room for the peace that you talked
Right.
about. We
Yes.
have to make room for it. But
Yes.
if we don't release the pain, ooh, if we don't release the pain, we can't have room for the peace.
I agree. In order to take hold of something new, you got to release something old. In
And
order
that's
to
true.
and I love how you I love this conversation. We have a tendency to we have a tendency we have a difficulty letting things go.
Yeah,
Even if we're hurt, we keep thinking about it sometimes. We
reliving it.
recycling those thoughts. you know um I did a social media post yesterday about this very thing, about journaling and the
Mm,
benefits of it, and how it's healthy and how it's helpful.
right.
I agree that probably more women do it than men. But one of the things that I mentioned in my post is about pouring out your innermost thoughts, emotions, and dreams, a place where you can explore the depths of your mind and your heart without judgment.
Mm,
And I said, whenever, for example, if you're ever feeling like overwhelmed, for example, right? A lot of us go through the spirit or the feeling of overwhelmness. And I talked about that, with my job. There were times when I just felt, man, overwhelmed, this is too much. But when overwhelmed, journaling helped me, one, to find clarity, and two, to find peace. The journaling for me was kind of like that best friend who listens but doesn't give you any judgment, just guiding you through your thoughts and emotions. And there's no right or wrong way to do it, right?
Right.
You just putting thoughts in, and it doesn't necessarily have to be paper and pen. Sometimes, I'll pull out a phone and write my thoughts down. That was part of my self-care, getting those things out of my head, and that was contributing to me having better mental health, because I didn't want those things to keep me up at night and things of that nature. The other good thing about journaling or writing things down. So for me, Sakoni, and some of your followers might have this issue, but I had a difficult relationship with my mother. So I had what some people call the mother wound.
Right.
And one of my assignments, one of my projects was write a letter to your mother. Easier said than done. Easier said than done. It took me years. And almost every visit, my therapist would say, so how's the letter going? Right. And then she had passed away. It wasn't like she was standing in front of me going to get upset with me or anything. Exercise was an opportunity for me to be able to release all of those things that I had held up inside for years. Yeah. And today's social media post was about forgiveness. That letter for me was a big part of it was about was forgiveness. Forgiving my mom, and also in some instances forgiving myself.
Yeah. I think we need to offer the same level of grace we offer other people. I think we need to be partakers of that ourselves. I know how important it is for us to, again, minister to ourselves, but it's not that we become self-centered or even self-serving, but we become self-aware.
Yes.
And we, again, model the importance of self-care. It's not that you're being selfish, but you're thinking of yourself.
Right.
Because I can't be the best version of myself for you if I'm not the best version of myself for me.
Right.
And so, man, I can't believe, look at the time.
I know.
This has been an amazing conversation. Listen, I want to give you an opportunity to share with people how they can follow you, how they can connect with you, how they can read some of those amazing social media posts that you put out. So tell people how to get in contact with you.
Yes. So as I mentioned, my name is DrRhonda M. Wood. And so my website is DrRhondaMWood.com. And as you can imagine, my social media handle is DrRhonda M. Wood on all social media platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, you name it. My handle is DrRhonda M. Wood. The social media post that so this is Mental Health Awareness Month, right? May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And for the past 2 years, I have done a post every single day on a topic or a subject that has to do with mental health. And like I said, yesterday was about journaling. Today is about forgiveness. I've done topics on self-compassion and things of that nature. So if anybody wants to follow me, that's my handle, DrRhonda M. Wood.
Okay. All right. Well, we are again so grateful, excited, and delighted that you agreed to be a part of our podcast. And I just want to thank you again for your transparency, your honesty, your openness about even your own journey, because I believe that the only way that we can really help other people is to show them that we are just as human as they are. That we're not always Superman. Most of the time we're Clark Kent. But but being able to actually openly and honestly share that aspect of ourselves, I believe it gives other people cause for them to realize I don't always have to stop bullets. I don't always have to be faster, faster than a locomotive or stronger than a
Right.
locomotive. I can be vulnerable. I can be human, and that's what I think a lot of us are missing today. So, and I do want to say this. I cannot leave without saying this. I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, because it's hard enough for us to deal with our own stuff, okay? But when you take on, the trauma, the wounds of somebody else, when you agree to kind of yoke up with somebody and walk them through a particular situation, that to me, that's what a hero does.
Wow.
puts, puts aside their stuff long enough to help somebody else. So I want to thank you and all of the other therapists and counselors and psychologists that have been on my podcast, because to me, you're on the front line. And somebody once said that they were a mental health EMS.
I love that.
Because,
I just call myself I just champion mental health.
okay,
Something that
okay,
I didn't value as much in the past. I think a lot of us, when we thought about mental health, we thought about mental illness.
that
Somebody
part.
needed to be institutionalized, or somebody was
Right,
in a straight jacket and had to go into a hospital, had to take meds, psychotropic
right,
meds. We
right.
never thought of it as healing, versus coping, or
Right.
self-care, being
That part.
compassionate, having gratitude.
Yes.
There's some not so negative connotations as well. But
Right.
Sakoni, I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you, not just for inviting me on your platform, which is an honor, but also for the great work that you do and for this amazing book that you've written to be able to help people with their journey
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Well,
bring awareness.
I humbly thank you for that, because, quite frankly, I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
My slogan is I'm Sakona Prince of SakonaPrince.com. We make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself.
Mm,
And it's more than just a slogan, because, like I tell people all the time, until you know who you are, anything can stop you. But once you know who you are, nothing can.
mm,
And my goal is to help people to understand who they are, all of them, not just the adult version, not just their avatar, in fact, what they show people, but even what's on the inside, even those areas that need healing, so that we can have that inner peace, that inner acceptance. So, because I did a video one time where, and I may even post it on this, but I pretended that somebody handed me a piece of paper, and I read on the paper, said some people don't like you. And I said, "What? That's their loss."
right.
And because when you like yourself, when you know what you have, when you know who you are, I don't care what anyone else thinks about me.
Wow.
When I have accepted me, your acceptance is optional. It's a benefit, it's a bonus. But if you don't accept me, I don't I don't hold that against myself. It's because you really don't know me. And see, that's what I want. I want to get people to that place where they know themselves well enough to where they are happy with who they are, and they're not looking for somebody to co-sign their existence.
Right.
And so, writing this book, doing this podcast, being an advocate for that is one thing that again, today is near and dear to my heart. Just like personal development was, just like leadership development, and really, again, all of it's connected.
Right.
And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, 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 it is. So listen. I know this is not going to be the last time we have you on. Thank you again for coming on. And I know that, in fact, when I post the video, I put all of your links on the graphic and stuff. But
Oh,
when I
yes.
get this, it's going to have that information on there as well. But listen,
Awesome.
we can't get out of here, in fact, without mentioning our sponsor again, BetterHelp.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SaconiPrinceHill. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable. It is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SaconiPrinceHill or choose Saconi Prince Hill during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month.
Well, again, Dr. Woods, I want to thank you for being on our podcast, and thank you for your insightful comments and illustrations to help us to understand that our mental health can be a priority, and we not only need to do it for ourselves, but even for those that we love.
Brilliant. Thank you so much again. I appreciate you.
In fact, you're welcome. Do you have any last words?
Yes. So for anybody who is struggling or maybe feel like it might be challenging or having difficulty making the decision to go through that healing process and heal that inner child, I'm going to encourage you to go for it. Go ahead and take that leap with both feet and knees high in the air. Go ahead and take that leap. You will not regret it.
Yeah, that is so true. And again, I concur because I know how freeing and how peaceful it is, in fact, to do just that. So with that being said, we will see you guys next week. Actually, next week, we're going to have our podcast on Wednesday because we have a special guest, none other than Dr. Kathy Barton-Brown. You want to tune in to check her out. And again, we are so grateful to have all of you watch, listen, like and share this video, comment. Please help us get the word out because I believe that this is something that, again, has been overlooked for far too long. It's something that we really need to focus on bringing attention to. And again, like I said, this podcast is to start the conversation. And listen, we'll see you later. Talk to you soon. Bye.